is the Rosetta Stone. It was the key to understanding Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it is one of the most precious and valuable treasures of the British Museum.
For more than 200 years, the Rosetta Stone has been known as the key that unlocked ancient Egypt. Historians believed its secrets were already understood. But when new AI technology scanned the stone in detail never seen before, it found something no one expected. Hidden markings revealed messages that seemed to warn of events far beyond their time. What the AI discovered has left experts both shocked and afraid of what it could mean. Join us as we uncover what the Rosetta Stone truly says, and why its final message might change history forever. What is the Rosetta Stone? The Rosetta Stone has always stood as one of the most important discoveries in history, yet its appearance and story reveal details that many do not expect. When it was first catalogued after being discovered in the Egyptian town of Rosetta and later handed over to British troops in 1801, it was described simply as a black stone with 3 inscriptions. This description would lead to a long misunderstanding about its true nature. Once the stone reached London, people wanted the ancient writing on it to be more visible. To make the inscriptions stand out, white chalk was rubbed into the carved letters. To further protect the surface from the constant touch of curious visitors, it was coated with a layer of carnauba wax. That layer deepened the color, making the stone look almost completely black. Because of this, it was wrongly believed for many years to be made of black basalt. Centuries later, when the stone was cleaned in 1999, all of those early additions were removed. This cleaning revealed its original appearance, for the first time since it had been discovered. The dark gray shade of the rock could be seen again, along with the natural sparkle of its crystalline surface. A faint but striking pink vein running across the top left corner also became visible. With this fresh look, geologists were able to study it closely. By comparing the stone to rock samples from Egypt, they discovered it closely matched granodiorite taken from a small quarry at Gebel Tingar, on the west bank of the Nile near Elephantine in the Aswan region. The pink vein, in particular, was a known feature of the granodiorite from that area, leaving little doubt about its true origin. The stone itself is a large, heavy block. It stands at a height of about 3 feet and 8 inches, measures 2 feet 5 inches wide, and has a thickness of just over 11 inches. Its weight is immense, about 760 kilograms, which equals roughly 1,680 pounds. For such a plain-looking object, its physical presence is impressive, and one can imagine the effort it took to move it from Egypt to Britain in the early 19th century. What makes the Rosetta Stone so remarkable are the 3 different scripts carved into its surface. The top portion contains ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, written in a form called Middle Egyptian, which was already an old-fashioned style at the time. In fact, it was not the everyday language people spoke, but rather an archaic version chosen for religious and formal texts. Below this, the second section is written in the Demotic script, which was the common written form of Egyptian used during the Ptolemaic period. This script reflects much more closely the spoken language of the time. Finally, the third section at the bottom is written in Ancient Greek, which was the administrative language of Egypt under the Ptolemaic rulers. The smooth front face of the stone is neatly engraved with inscriptions that are lightly carved yet carefully arranged, while the back was left rough because it would have been hidden once the stela was set in place. What we see today is only a fragment of what was once a much larger monument. Later excavations in Rosetta did not uncover any of the missing sections. Because of the damage, none of the 3 inscriptions carved on the stone have survived in full. The top section, written in hieroglyphs, has suffered the most. Only the final 14 lines are still visible, and even those are damaged on the right. 12 of these lines are also broken on the left, leaving the hieroglyphic text severely incomplete. The middle section, written in demotic script, is in better condition, with 32 lines still legible. The first 14 lines show minor damage on the right, but overall, this part is much clearer than the hieroglyphs above. The Greek section at the bottom is the best preserved, containing 54 lines. The first 27 lines remain fully intact, though the lower right corner of the stone has broken off diagonally, making the remaining lines increasingly fragmentary. By comparing it with other stelae from the same period, scholars have been able to reconstruct how the original Rosetta Stone might have looked. One key comparison is with the Decree of Canopus, created in 238 BC during the reign of Ptolemy III. That stela stands over 7 feet tall and 32 inches wide, featuring 36 lines of hieroglyphs, 73 of Demotic, and 74 of Greek. Because these inscriptions are so similar in length, experts estimate that the Rosetta Stone originally included about 14 or 15 more lines of hieroglyphs above what remains today. This would have added roughly 30 centimeters, or around 1 foot, to its height. In addition to the lost inscriptions, the original upper part of the stela probably included decorative carvings as well. Similar monuments from the same era often show the king being presented to the gods, an image symbolizing royal power and divine blessing. Above that, a winged sun disk often appears, a traditional Egyptian emblem of protection. Although the surviving Rosetta Stone no longer has these features, scholars are confident they were once part of its design, based on close comparisons with monuments like the Canopus stela. All these details together highlight both the significance and the delicate condition of the Rosetta Stone. It is far more than just a slab of rock. It is a carefully crafted record of authority and communication, designed to bridge understanding across different languages. Now, let's take a closer look at what the inscription itself reveals. The Decree. The great stone slab was raised in honor of King Ptolemy V after his coronation. Upon its surface, a decree was carved, setting in place the worship of the young king as a divine figure. This command was not made directly by the king himself, but by a large gathering of priests who met in the ancient city of Memphis. They recorded the date in both the Macedonian and Egyptian calendars, placing the event on the 27th of March in the year 196 BC. The inscription described it as the 9th year of Ptolemy's reign, and even listed the names of priests who held office at that time. Among them was Aetos, son of Etos, who carried out sacred duties connected to Alexander the Great and the royal line of Ptolemies. The record also honored priests dedicated to Berenice Euergetes, Arsinoe Philadelphos, and Arsinoe Philopater, women of the dynasty who were venerated like goddesses. The decree, however, created some confusion, for a second date appeared in the text. In the Greek and hieroglyphic versions, another day was given, the 27th of November in the year 197 BC, which marked the official anniversary of the king's coronation. The Demotic text introduced another version, placing the decree and the anniversary only days apart in March. No one is entirely certain why these records did not match. What remains clear is that the order was written in 196 BC, and its goal was to strengthen the Ptolemaic hold over Egypt during a time of deep unrest. The background of the decree was tied to years of turmoil. Ptolemy V Epiphanes, son of Ptolemy IV Philopater, and his sister wife Arsinoe, had become king as a small child. Both of his parents' lives were claimed in a plot involving his father's mistress, Agathoclea. After their demise, the conspirators, with Agathoclea at their head, ruled in the boy's name. But their control collapsed when a rebellion led by General Tlepolemus broke out only 2 years later. the enraged people of Alexandria turned on Agathoclea and her family, dragging them to their end. Tlepolemus then assumed power as guardian of the child king, but he too was eventually removed in 201 BC, replaced by Aristomenes of Elysia, who was the chief minister when the decree was drawn. While Egypt was torn by internal struggles, dangers pressed from beyond its borders. Antiochus III of the Seleucid Empire and Philip V of Macedon had made an alliance to divide Ptolemaic territories. Philip captured islands and cities in Caria and Thrace, while Antiochus struck a decisive blow at the Battle of Panium in 198 BC, seizing Coele-Syria, which included Judea. In the south, Egypt faced another challenge, a powerful local revolt that had begun during the reign of Ptolemy IV. Leaders named Horwenifer and later Anquenifer held firm against the crown, and their resistance dragged on for years. Against this backdrop, the boy king was officially crowned at Memphis when he was only 12 years old, 7 years after his reign had technically begun. The decree was issued soon after, meant to show strength and stability. Unlike the grand proclamations of earlier pharaohs, this one wasn't spoken directly by the king, but by the priesthood. Such stelae were a feature of the Ptolemaic era, inspired by Greek city traditions where communities honored their rulers instead of waiting for rulers to praise themselves. In this decree, Ptolemy was celebrated for his generosity. He had donated silver and grain to the temples and was credited with managing the Nile when it rose unusually high in the 8th year of his reign. By ordering dams to hold back the excess water, he helped farmers save their crops. In gratitude, the priests pledged loyalty, promising to honor him alongside the gods and to celebrate his birthday and coronation each year. The decree also required that its text be displayed in every temple across Egypt, written in 3 scripts: hieroglyphs for the gods, Demotic for daily use, and Greek for administration. The priests of Memphis held great power as the highest religious figures in Egypt, influencing regions far beyond their city. By issuing the decree in Memphis rather than Alexandria, the political center of the Ptolemies, the young king made a clear effort to gain their favor. Although Egypt's rulers had spoken Greek since Alexander the Great, the inclusion of Egyptian texts reminded the people that their language and traditions still mattered, and were respected through the priesthood. The stone slab, therefore, was more than just a monument. It was a political statement, a sacred pledge, and a sign of resilience in one of Egypt's most unstable times. It tied the crown and the priesthood together in mutual dependence and, written in 3 languages, revealed the young king's effort to unite and stabilize a divided land. Yet translating the decree into modern languages has always been difficult. No single version is considered final, as scholars continue refining their understanding of these ancient scripts. Early translations by E. A. Wallace Budge in the early 1900s and by Edwin R. Bevan in the 1920s are still available but now outdated. More recent interpretations, like R.S. Simpson's translation based on the Demotic version, provide clearer insights. Another thorough modern edition, produced by Quirky and Andrews in 1989, includes all 3 texts with an introduction and detailed facsimile drawing, offering a more complete view of the decree's historical importance. Unlocking the mystery. For centuries, the language of ancient Egypt remained an unsolved puzzle. The words carved into temples and monuments stood like locked doors, their meanings hidden from the world. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the knowledge of reading hieroglyphs gradually disappeared. Even before that, the script had become so specialized that only a handful of priests and scribes could read it. By the 4th century AD, almost no one in Egypt could understand the old symbols. With the spread of Christianity and the decline of the temple priesthoods, hieroglyphs vanished from daily life and religious ceremonies alike. The final known hieroglyphic inscription appeared at Philae. It is called the Graffito of Esmet Akhom. Not long after, the last text written in Demotic script also appeared there. With those two final writings, Egypt's ancient writing system faded from use, leaving behind mysterious carvings that would baffle later generations. The shapes of the hieroglyphs survived, but their meanings were lost. To Greek and Roman onlookers, the writing seemed purely decorative, nothing like their alphabets. This misunderstanding shaped how later scholars viewed hieroglyphs. In the 5th century, a priest named Horapollo wrote Hieroglyphica, describing nearly 200 signs and offering meanings for them. His book was long considered reliable, but much of it was wrong. Rather than solving the mystery, it deepened the confusion for centuries to come. In medieval Egypt, Arab scholars tried to rediscover the secrets of the ancient script. During the 9th and 10th centuries, thinkers like Dhul Nun al-Misri and Ibn Wahshiyya compared hieroglyphs to the Coptic language still spoken in Egyptian churches. Across Europe, the search continued. In the 16th century, Pierius Valerianus studied the problem, followed in the 17th century by Athanasius Kircher. Yet none of them found the key. Kircher famously called it the riddle of the Sphinx, showing just how mysterious the writing remained. Everything changed in 1799 with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone. This single slab of dark granodiorite contained the same decree written in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic. For the first time, scholars had a direct link between a known language and the lost Egyptian ones. Still, progress was slow. Even the Greek text caused trouble. Though scholars could read Greek, the version used in Ptolemaic Egypt included unusual official and religious terms. Early translations often struggled to capture its true meaning. In April 1802, Stephen Weston presented an English translation of the Greek text, though it was far from accurate. Meanwhile, copies of the inscription were made in Egypt, and 2 reached Paris in 1801. Gabriel de la Porte du Teil, a librarian and antiquarian, began translating the Greek section, but was soon sent away on Napoleon's orders. His unfinished work passed to Hubert Pascal Amelon, who completed the first published translations in 1803, releasing them in both Latin and French, so more scholars could study them. Around the same time in Cambridge, Richard Porson worked on reconstructing the missing lower right corner of the text. His version became widely circulated. At Göttingen, Christian Gottlob Heine produced a Latin translation considered more accurate than Amelhon's. Printed in 1803 and reissued in 1811 alongside other important documents, including Weston's English version, it marked a major step toward unlocking Egypt's long-lost language. Attention also turned to the middle section of the stone, written in Demotic script. At that time, this writing was little known. Swedish diplomat Johan David Åkerblad had already been studying it from other examples found in Egypt. He believed it represented a kind of cursive form of the Coptic language, though its connection to Coptic was limited. His studies caught the attention of the French Orientalist Antoine Isaac Sylvestre de Sacy. In 1801, Sylvestre de Sacy received one of the early prints of the Rosetta Stone. He quickly noticed that the middle section was in the same script Åkerblad had been examining. The 2 men began working together, treating the Demotic script as an alphabet. They compared the lines of this middle text to the Greek one, looking for names that would appear in both. By the following year, Sylvestre de Sacy had managed to identify 5 names, including Alexandros, Alexandria, Ptolemaios, Arsinoe, and Ptolemy's royal title, Epiphanes. Åkerblad went further, publishing an alphabet of 29 letters based on his observations, more than half of which turned out to be correct. Yet, despite this progress, they could not go much further. What they did not realize was that Demotic was not purely alphabetical. It contained phonetic signs, but also ideographic and symbolic elements that did not match directly to sounds. This mixture blocked their progress. Still, these early steps were crucial. They showed that parts of the ancient Egyptian scripts could be matched with known languages, and they laid the foundation for later discoveries. Decades later, through the steady work of many scholars and finally the breakthroughs of Jean-François Champollion, the lost language of Egypt would at last be unlocked. What once seemed an eternal mystery began to open up slowly after centuries of failed attempts. And what they were able to put together was unbelievable. What you think when you see the carved walls of ancient Egyptian temples, endless rows of birds, eyes, and strange symbols, is that they must tell a story. But for centuries, no one on earth could read them. The language of the pharaohs had vanished, its meanings locked away in stone. The secrets of ancient Egypt stood in plain sight, yet remained completely hidden. It took countless scholars, false starts, and one remarkable discovery, the Rosetta Stone, to finally begin unlocking the mystery of these lost words.